Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of motorsports conversation from Race Chaser Radio. This is the Inside Pass. My name is Tom Baker. Randy Miller will be joining me a little bit later on. He is on his way to the studio and will join us for the second half of the show. We also have on the hotline Nick Degroot is joining us, and Nikea, our star producer here, was kind enough to bring Nick on the air immediately when I said his name. So we have 2020 iRacing Indy 500 champ Nick Degroot joining us. Nick, I got to tell you, I'm a little perplexed at how NASCAR is going to get this Texas race in, because it rained all day yesterday. It rained all night last night. It is still raining at this moment. There's a hurricane coming. What are we doing here? Is there any possibility that we're going to see this Cup race get in at all today or ever?
Yeah, so the best suggestion I saw was, and Eddie Gossage, close your ears, I say we just go to Martinsville, we run this race on Saturday in Martinsville, and then we run the second Martinsville race Sunday. I think that's the best of all worlds for everybody, because I don't see how we're getting this race in at least until Thursday, which is just insane, and you can't just keep these guys there all week.
Well, it's that's an interesting thought process there, because and again, if you're listening here on WSIC to this show, it is Saturday, of course, and we tape these shows on Monday. So there is a bit of a delay in obviously the news cycle and such, but we're not sure what to think here, because if we play your scenario out, I know two or three drivers at least that I can think of off the top of my head that would be really disappointed. Then the next question is, do we pick it up from where we left off at Martinsville, or do we just start the whole thing over? How would that even work?
Can you imagine that, putting that in the history books? Yeah, we had a race that started at Texas and ended at Martinsville. Don't worry about it. It was in 2020.
The fuel mileage was crazy.
Does Kevin Harvick have to take the damaged car to Martinsville? That's the question.
That would be the question. Yeah, I mean that it's that would be like a cross country cannonball run sort of scenario there. We need Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise and all those folks to be a part of that. I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy. We obviously did get the other two races of the weekend in, and we'll get to those here in a moment. But gosh. To see what's going on right now. And I don't know that I've ever seen a scenario like this, or at least not in a long time. The
one I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was an Atlanta race in 2011 that went to Wednesday. I believe that happened.
Yeah, but
Tuesday afternoon.
I think you're right.
May went to Tuesday. Yeah, I think it went to Tuesday.
Yeah, you're right. I think it became a midweek show. But the fact is, they had the window to get it in. With this, rain that's going on, and the way that this system is, and the forecast, which only gets worse from here. I don't know that I've ever seen a scenario where NASCAR just has no opportunity over the course of a week to get a race in. And the irony here is that because it's 2020 and because we're doing a lot of these one-day shows and because Martinsville is so close to home base for most of the teams, which is the greater Charlotte area, of course, it would be a doable thing to race on Tuesday or Wednesday and still get to Martinsville to go racing this weekend. But it just doesn't. I don't know when the weather's going to let that happen. So I don't know what you do. I mean, this is a playoff race. We're in the last round. We're down to two shows before the championship. It's here in Martinsville. That's it. And I don't know what you do. I don't know that NASCAR's ever had a mock scenario that would have included, oh, by the way, it's going to rain on Sunday and Monday, and then we're going to have a hurricane. I don't know that that's ever happened, that's ever been thought of.
At the end of October, too.
Yeah, at the end of October. I mean, it's again, 2020. Unbelievable, really. But so we'll keep our eye on that, but not looking good. And like I said, this will be really interesting to see how NASCAR deals with this, given that it's, so late in the playoffs, et cetera. But certainly a bizarre situation. I know a lot of people are saying they need to just make it a blanket policy to run in the rain. I don't want to see that on ovals. It's bad enough we do it on road courses. I know sports car people like it. I'm an old school racer. I'm an old school race fan. The Roval on Sunday was okay. The Roval on Saturday, to me, was a dumpster fire that only got saved by a great battle between two guys who are very good road course racers, and the fact that the rain stopped and the standing water started to subside. I just don't think it's good for NASCAR to be doing that. I don't know what your opinion is.
See, I love both Sunday and Saturday at the Roval.
Okay.
Whether it's light rain or heavy rain, it's unique, and I love it. Whether it's NASCAR, sports cars, F1, IndyCar, I love seeing cars race in the rain because it's just such a unique and bizarre challenge for them to do. But on an oval like Texas, it's just not possible. Even if they start puttering around the track, the thing is, at a road course, there's a place for the cars to go when they have an incident.
That's right.
Here, they're just going to go into the wall and slide across the track, and everybody's going to run into them.
Right. Yeah, and people were saying, well, that didn't happen on the big track at Charlotte. People weren't hitting the wall all over the place. And it's like, well, yes, but they were only on a portion of the big track, and the track got progressively drier.
This is the oval exclusively. There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, you couldn't run an entire race, in my opinion, on an oval like that. I just don't. To me, it's a fundamentally different race. And I just am not a big fan of that sort of situation for NASCAR. I feel like we, in general, and this, I guess, makes me the cranky old curmudgeon of our race chaser group, and that's fine because I am the oldest one in the group, so I guess I'm entitled to be cranky. But I'm just not that. I love road course racing. I love the idea of it. I love that NASCAR's adding 6 road courses or going up to 6 road courses for the Cup schedule. I love it because of the particular courses they've chosen. What I wouldn't want to see, though, is I don't want to see a lot of the influence and the differences between the oval and the road course mindset and approach come into, and this would be an example of that. We're going to, race in the rain. I mean, you just can't. You can't even think about it. Can you imagine Daytona or Talladega? I mean, you're not doing it, and I don't think we should be doing it anywhere, honestly, in NASCAR. But on a road course, fair enough, I guess it's part of that kind of racing. But I am interested to see how this all turns out. Okay, so we'll keep our eye on that, but I want to move forward here because we have so much other to talk about from the weekend, and of course Martinsville coming up. It really is down to crunch time in the Cup Series, which is what makes this scenario so, I'm sure, such a stressful thing for everybody in Texas right now, because nobody wants to see, you wouldn't want to see it canceled. You really don't want to see it get run at Martinsville. I mean, I guess some of us would be okay with that, but the guys who prepared for Texas, and Clint Boyer is leading there right now. I don't think you want to see all of that. And I don't know. I mean, but I look at what's going on, and assuming that we find a way to get this race in, is there anything as we go into Sunday at Martinsville, is there anything that stands out to you that we should be really paying attention to, coming into the final race for the Cup guys?
Yeah, the fact that if someone like Bowman wins this race, if you look at the playoffs right now, Kevin Harvick is in danger, and I never thought I would say that.
Yep.
Yeah, and not to mention they haven't even scored any stage points yet. We're still in the first stage, but I don't see the 4-car scoring any stage points, which is going to hurt him even more. And the fact that the Harvick, the 4-car, could potentially be eliminated next weekend is just insane to me. And personally, I hope it doesn't happen because they've been so strong this year. They deserve to be in that Final Four just like Hamlin does. But that's the nature of this playoffs. one thing goes wrong and it can all go away.
Well, and everybody talks about the fact that the playoffs ruin the championship chase or ruin the championship scenario or whatever. You've got 10 races. I mean, the way I look at it is you run the first 26 races to get to the last 10. And so there are a lot of different ways to approach the first 26. If you do what the Penske cars did, at least two of them, and you get your wins early, you get into the playoffs, then you can start to experiment a little bit with some of the regular season shows and maybe try some different things because you're in the playoffs. If once you get to the playoffs, I feel like that's where we see who the best teams really are and who the best drivers really are, because now it's a 10-race shootout and you've got to bring your A game every single time. And, so to me, this is where guys like Harvick and Hamlin, the real veterans of the series that have been around a while, even Kyle Busch, I mean, that team just didn't have it this year. They're just off. They didn't have the practices to dial the car in or whatever. But I think what you end up with in the playoff that we have, when you get to the Final Four, it's the guys that they did the best of the playoff scenario. I mean, I just can't emphasize enough how, to me anyway, it may be different than, who's the best average finish for 36 races, because that's really what the championship used to be. This is a 10 race. You better bring it every race. And if you don't, you're liable to take yourself out, scenario. And to me, that feels more like how a championship ought to be decided rather than being, the best average finisher for 36 races.
Yeah, it took the words right out of my mouth. With this playoff format, yes, it can be unpredictable. It can lead to some strange outcomes.
Yeah.
But I remember the old playoffs, they would say, oh, you have one or two mulligans. There are no mulligans here.
Right.
You have to be
right.
100% A-plus perfect every single race in this playoffs. And I think that really shows who the best of the best are, because one mistake, one lapse in judgment, it can be over.
Exactly. And that's, for me, I like that scenario. I like that because, again, I got so tired after a while of hearing, well, it was a 12th place finish, but it was a pretty good points day overall. Look, if you're out there to ride around all day and play it safe just to make sure you get the points, that you're not out there for the right reason. Get your butt up on the wheel and go get a win. And that's why I like the stages, because they keep these drivers on their toes. And I think it makes the whole race better. People call them gimmicks and you can call it what you want. But to me, some of these races are too long to begin with, in my opinion. And I think it's time to shorten them, for one thing. But at least having the stages gives us that aspect that all the way through the race, everybody's going to be up on the wheel because you need those stage points. And of course, every stage win is, playoff points, etc. You need all of that to propel you if you have a bad situation. I mean, Harvick's close to the bubble down, Nick, right? And how many races has he won this year? So
yeah, 8-9 races.
Yeah. I mean, you're one of the winningest drivers on the circuit, but in this stretch, it's so close that, one mistake or one miscue could take you out. So we're going to step aside for a break here because Nikia's giving me a really glaring look, and I don't like to make her mad because she'll hit me with something. So we'll be back with more of the Inside Pass right after this.
You're listening to the Inside Pass.
That's better. I felt like I was run over by Ben Rhodes.
Oh, wow. Shots fired here. We haven't gotten to that yet, but we can. Welcome back
Lord.
to the Inside Pass. My name is Tom Baker, and I am now joined in the studio by the proper host of this show, Randy Miller. And, of course, we have Nick Degroot on the hotline. We're going to bring Nick back out from motorsport.com. And, well, I mean, I guess we can refocus here on what happened with the trucks of the Xfinity Series, and I'm going to gently toss the ball back to Randy to take over the rest of the show.
Yeah, so if you haven't looked at the video, you have to go find the video and watch what happened during the truck race yesterday as we're recording this live. But basically, there was an incident where Ben Rhodes just had enough of Christian Eckes and just dumped him into the wall. And some choice words afterwards from both, well, some choice actions by Christian Eckes, some choice words by Ben Rhodes, but basically Ben was defending himself, saying that he ran out of room and, you know, whatever, it's BS in my book, whatever. Anyway, so the whole point is that, you know, everybody jumped on Twitter and basically wants Ben Rhodes banned and fired and suspended and put up at the stake and, you know, hung in, you know, whatever, hung in the town square, I guess, if you will, over the incident. So, Nick, what are your thoughts? What do you think happened yesterday during the truck race?
Yeah, it was pretty blatant what happened there. I mean, when Ben Rhodes started talking, I understood what he was saying. He got pushed up the track by Eckes, and he did get very close to that wall. Then he gathered it up. And then he took a hard left into the right rear of Eckes, and there's no way to spin that. You were fully under control there. You did that purposely, and I think he deserves a timeout for a week. I think that was comparable to what Kyle Busch did to Ron Hornaday at that truck race a while back, to a few other incidents we've had recently. I mean, I wouldn't put in the same category as like a Matt Kenseth, deliberately waiting, thinking, and taking out a playoff guy because, you know, he did it in the heat of the moment, so I'll give him that. But he deserves to sit out a race to set an example, but I don't think that's going to happen.
NASCAR is saying there probably won't be any penalties, and my take on that is that I compare it in mindset to the Kyle Busch Hornaday deal, but not in exact scenario. That happened under a caution, I believe, as did the Kenseth retaliation on Logano. And again, Logano got Kenseth sideways. He gently moved him and got him sideways at Kansas. And then Kenseth drove Joey straight in the wall under caution at Martinsville. So uneven payback. Okay. And in this instance, I feel like, Ben either thought that he got contact from, Eckes or whatever, but video doesn't lie. And I think that at that point, Ben may have overcorrected trying to save it, but nonetheless, I don't know. I mean, it was bad, and I would have had no issue with NASCAR parking him for the race. I would have an issue, however, with a 1 week suspension, only because we go back earlier in the season to Noah Gragson and his deal with, who was
Harrison
it?
Burton.
Burton, that's right, Harrison Burton at Vegas.
I believe
Vegas?
So, yeah.
I think it was
Vegas. I believe so,
yeah.
yeah.
And that was the same. That was as blatantly, and NASCAR didn't sit him. So I think you've kind of set that precedent. But here's what I will say. I think in general, I feel like Ben has had a very frustrating season, and I think Ben needs to find a place mentally where he's not so quick-tempered. I've known Ben a long time, and I feel like Ben his mentality has shifted a little bit. He's very aggressive. He crashed, he hit a car earlier in the race. I can't remember.
38.
Gilliland, yes.
And on the last lap.
Okay, I didn't know the last lap thing. I'm not.
The last lap was
but.
the one where his truck got destroyed, and I can't remember who it was that he
Well, I
ran
think
into,
that
but
was
somehow-
when
I think it was
Chandler
Josh
Smith.
Rayum.
Yeah, it was Josh Rayum.
It
That's
was,
who it was.
well, Chandler Smith, I think, is the one that triggered that with Balicki and Ben. I think that was.
Yeah, it could have been.
I
I
think
know
that was a
Rayum
Chandler
was
Smith
involved
deal.
in there somewhere because he was part of the whole Twitter war.
But yeah, it was a tough deal because it's really a you don't want to have a driver sit a race out. And like I said, as well as I know Ben, I just feel like he's kind of been a little over aggressive at times throughout the year, and I think it can be the result of just pressing too hard. I think Ben just needs to take a step back and breathe a little bit, because I think that each one of those deals he was in could have been avoided, except for maybe the last one. But I definitely think the first two that yesterday could have been avoided, and I don't blame Eckes for being upset because he didn't really do anything wrong, in my opinion, unless it was something prior to that we didn't see, and
Right.
that's what baffled the TV announcers too. So I don't know what you do there, but I hope. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add this: the whole conversation about parking him or not for Martinsville.
Yeah.
With the way Christian Eckes is talking, he's getting parked in Martinsville one way or another.
Right.
Well,
So,
and you know what? If that happens, that's on Christian, and that's kind of I don't think you want it to happen, but I'd rather the drivers deal with it than NASCAR get involved, especially when you've set a precedent earlier in the year of not aggressively sitting somebody who I thought kind of deserved it.
yeah, that's fair.
So, and then I think maybe at some point NASCAR says, look, for 2021, but they're not going to do that because secretly it's great pre-race promotion footage later.
Yeah, that's very true. That's why you go to iRacing and you start practicing how to do it purposely, but make it look like an accident.
Exactly right.
And that's how you do that. So I heard you guys talking about the road course races and how exciting it is for road course races to be added to the schedule. Well, the trucks and Xfinity are now officially announced to have been added to COTA. So they're officially going to run COTA with the Cup Series. In what are they running COTA? Is it April or May next year?
March.
March.
They're going
to be running down in Austin at the new COTA track. So all three of the main NASCAR series are running COTA. So that's exciting news for both trucks and for Xfinity series. So
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. Nick, you agree?
I want more. Every time they announce any NASCAR race at any road course, I'm in favor of it. I don't care where it is. I don't care which series.
See, I love the idea of road courses. I don't want it to get to where it's IndyCar and we run 3/4 road courses and, a quarter ovals.
Oh, yeah, IndyCar's gone a little too far. They
have
almost no ovals next year.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, and I also don't want street courses because yesterday, St. Pete was predictable. It was a single file crash fest. Only IndyCar could make a race, a single file crash fest, a single file race where we hardly ever race each other, and yet we end up with about 10 or 11 cautions. I mean, that's
So the pace car runs out of fuel, and
you run it. Yeah, you bump into Jersey barriers because I just don't. I don't think that's the kind of racing NASCAR fans want. So I think NASCAR needs to be real careful about the street course thing. But these road courses they're going to are all very passable, very raceable, and in most cases historic. So.
In other news, Junior Motorsports announced that Josh Berry is going to run 12 races in the 8-car in 2021. Those of you who are I guess familiar with the Cars Tour, Josh Berry from his days in the Cars Tour. He went back to the Cars Tour this past weekend and won at Greenville that they won?
Yeah, Greenville Pickens, yeah. The Cars,
so he's going to be running in the Junior Motorsports car next year. Sheldon Creed and Tyler Ankrum are going to be back at GMS next year, running in 2021 in their respective cars as well. And Nutrigen Ag Solutions, which is the sponsor that is on the Colleague Racing number 10 car. I've been a long-time sponsor with Colleague. They sponsored Elliott Sadler when he was in the car. They sponsored Ross Chastain this year. They put out a teaser video yesterday of their new driver for 2021. And, of course, it's the infamous, shadow figure person that people are all over Twitter trying to guess who it is. Some people say it's AJ Allmendinger. Some people say it's Ty Dillon. I've heard Kaz Gralla in there. I've heard Anthony Alfredo in there. I've heard all kinds of names. But, Nick, have you seen the video, and do you have a guess as to who that driver might be?
I have seen the video, and I fully expect it to be AJ Allmendinger. I don't know anything. It's just what I expect.
Yep, I'm actually in agreement with that as well.
Well, it's
based on some things I know, some things I don't. But
and how about Josh Berry?
Well, there's an interesting idea, and I don't know. I feel like this is everybody's giving it to AJ. I'm not 100% sure that this is a lock for AJ Allmendinger. I agree. I think Alfredo is a strong candidate. I think Gralla is a strong candidate. I mean, when you look at the video, and I'm looking at it again as we're doing this, they kind of give you the history, right? So Sadler was a veteran, and Chastain is kind of a veteran, but really any of this is going to be veteran, even if it's, not aged veteran. Gralla's been around enough. Alfredo, I know, was new this year, but he's, I think this could be Ty Dillon. This could be anybody. I don't believe Ty Dillon, but I could see Alfredo and I could also see Daniel Hemrick.
Well, according to the video that you're looking at right there is actually a new video that just came out. But the one that I guess that one was from this morning, but AJ is in the car for Martinsville, but it's the 16, not the 10. The one that was posted yesterday is the actual 10 car, and it's 2021. So, I mean, I guess we all get half credit for AJ Allmendinger being right, because he's technically in the car, but not that car. So, it'd be interesting to see what they do with that car. So, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about developing a developmental team and kind of some ideas that we can throw around to try to help Toyota out, because they obviously need all the help they can get. And we'll talk about all the other news of the other motorsports going on. And we got some breaking news, too, about William Byron. We'll talk about that when we come back. More of the Inside Pass next.
I'm Chase Elliott, and you're listening to the Inside Pass.
To the Inside Pass here on WSIC, our beautiful studio here in Statesville, North Carolina, just north of the Charlotte area. And welcome back to the show. Tom Becker, Randy Miller, and Nick Degroot from motorsport.com on the strutmasters.com hotline, talking about motorsports and racing in general. A little bit of breaking news that happened just before we came on the air, that Rudy Fugle has been named as the new crew chief for William Byron beginning in 2021. And Rudy Fugle is a major part of racing. He was with William Byron when Byron was at KBM. I believe he's coming from KBM because isn't he currently a KBM crew chief?
Yes, he is.
He will be coming over from KBM to Hendrick to crew chief William Byron. I think, Nick, this is a huge game changer because William Byron's familiar with Rudy Fugel's work, and Rudy Fugel is one of the most respected, one of the most championship winning and victory winning crew chiefs in the garage area. This is a huge upgrade. Not to say anything bad about Chad Knaus, but him and Jimmy were good when they were together. But it's kind of out with the old, in with the new. But I think this is a huge get for Hendrick Motorsports.
Absolutely. Huge gain for Hendrick. Big loss for Kyle Busch Motorsports because Rudy does a great job with the young drivers on that team. He didn't just win with Byron. He won with Jones. He won with Bell. He won with Gregson. Of course, he won with Busch as well. He is a perfect guy to bring in for a driver like William Byron. Yes. Not to mention they have that history together. They won 7 races in 2016. If not for an engine failure late in the season, they probably would have won the championship. But I think he is what William Byron needs. And I think with him on top of the pit box, you're going to see a different William Byron in 2021.
I agree.
Well, I think William was poised to step up anyhow. I mean, after, he's had a couple years now. You saw the progression this year with Chad. Rudy coming over, again, a wealth of knowledge, great chemistry there. That is a huge game changer. Now, we look and see, are they going to make a change for for Kyle Larson, who is at least
Kyle Larson's going to be a Hendrick driver?
Well, that's what the world says.
Breaking news here on the Inside
Exactly. I'm just calling it because my gosh, it's like put the PR on already. Let's go.
Right.
But we'll see if there's a change made for that team. But I got to tell you, that is a huge loss for Kyle Busch Motorsports at a time when I feel like they're down anyway. I mean, they just, it wasn't that they weren't fast, but that team, except when Kyle Busch is driving the 51 truck, that team is just not winning a lot of races. And maybe it's an opportunity for them to go try to shake things up a little bit and find some new folks that can help them step back up to where they were before we went to this spec engine, which seems to have been the time that they kind of fell off.
It's pretty funny you said that because Ben Rhodes said the exact same thing during his interview, that if it wasn't for when the only time that anybody in that organization has talent is when Kyle Busch is behind the wheel. That was pretty funny.
I don't think it's the lack of talent, though.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, if you look at where they were last year to where they are this year, Christian Eckes obviously has done a fantastic job of just putting that team in good positions every week. And I feel like Rafael Lessard has grown right before our eyes. Because he was very green when he got into the season, and over the course of the year, he's gotten progressively better. And I think next year, providing they both stay, that I think the organization as a whole will be better because they'll have a year under their belt to succeed.
Well,
and Christian should have already won 4 or 5 or 6 races.
Well, yes, he should have. You're right. And Nick, I think even when Burton and Gilliland were there, I don't blame the driving. I think a lot of it's the team. I just think that's where they're at, and they got to find themselves again.
Agreed.
All right. So over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about the developmental programs that Ford, Chevy, and Toyota have, and the fact that Ford is kind of still building their development talent program. They really only had Chase Briscoe and Haley Deegan, who are now going to be full-time drivers next year in respective different series, but. Other than that, they don't really have a development program per se yet. But they're going to get there.
Stay tuned.
Chevy has their driver's ed development program, which is basically a Hendrick Motorsports development program for all intents and purposes, Hendrick and GMS, with all of their boys in it. And Toyota pretty much has a Joe Gibbs Racing development program for the most part, because that's where most of their talent comes from. But we've talked about over the last several years, Toyota has lost a lot of great talent to that development program, most notably and most recently Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez, just to name a few, and William Byron also being one of those guys as well. So the question becomes, how do you build an effective development program? And so since we're all media members and we all have our own opinions, Nick, we'll start with you. If you had the opportunity to build your own development program, what would you like to see in a development program for the future drivers of our sport?
Well, it wouldn't be how Toyota does it. That's for sure.
Don't do what Toyota does. All right, there's one.
Yeah. Basically, I would pick out 1, 2 solid drivers. Don't get a ton of them. Don't force them up through the ranks quickly. Just get 2, maybe 3 prospects, and slowly bring them up regionally with the ARCA West and ARCA Series. And then after they get a year under their belts there, up to trucks, a year under their belts there, maybe more if they need it, then up to Xfinity. Again, rinse and repeat, do the same thing. And if you do that and you do it right, you're going to have a Chase Briscoe with almost 10 wins jumping into a 14 car in 2021.
See, I agree totally with that. I think the thing that these organizations and Toyota is sort of let's just bring a bunch of them, find 1 or 2 gems, and then the rest, if we lose the rest, it's okay. They're looking for the Christopher Bell. So they're basically going, let's bring a bunch of kids in and see if we can find a star in the bunch. Ford did it differently. Ford went and got Chase Briscoe. Now we know why Haley Deegan was a desired issue. There's a huge desire in the sport in general to have another Danica. I'm all for having diversity in terms of women and minorities, all of that. I'm all for all of that, but I don't think you can force it. I think you have to develop it. And Ford is doing a nice job with Haley, and I think they did an outstanding job with Chase. They gave him good equipment. They were patient with him. But here's the key for me with all of this. And Chevy, to me, their program doesn't do anything for me. I don't think a lot of the drivers that are in that program, we're going to go where they're going anyway. They're the resources are there to put them wherever they need to go. I'm not really that big on Chevy's program at this point. I don't think it does a lot to develop the drivers. The mental aspect of this is key. When you rush a driver too quickly and he or she doesn't succeed right away, confidence shot. Okay, Natalie Decker's the perfect example of a driver who should have been groomed more slowly. She was pushed up before she was ready, and she's really struggled to find her footing. I've talked to Natalie a couple times. I think I've seen her. She wrote a great column in Speedway Illustrated a month ago, and I think she understands her situation. She really wants to succeed, but too many other people get involved. We're trying to make stars rather than growing them. Tiger Woods' father said, "Let the legend grow," and Tiger did. And to me, Randy, I think that's where you got to go with this. You got to develop great people and then teach them how to race well instead of trying to develop star racers and not focusing them so much on them as people.
Yeah, and I think part of the whole, mental outlook on everything is that if you're a driver, if you're a young racer, you're 14, 15, 16 years old, and you're out there running dirt on a weekly basis, you first of all have to realize that you're probably not going to make it in the sport. Like, it's just a reality. There's way too many race car drivers. There's too many drivers and not enough positions available. So you have to get that mindset out of your head that you can't do it because you feel like you're going to make it somewhere. You have to do it for the love of the sport and let the love of the sport carry you through to getting where you want to be, because eventually, if you're good enough at what you do, you're going to get seen by somebody. There's way too many avenues for your stuff to be seen, whether it be through TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, wherever. There's all kinds of social media channels where your stuff is going to go viral if you're good enough at what you do. I think for me, if I was going to start a development program, I'd obviously want to find a couple of good people, a good scout to go out and just scour the country and find somebody who is that person that just needs that little bit of, spotlight. Because coming from Texas, there's not a lot of opportunity for Texas drivers to get noticed, because if you don't travel too far, like if you don't go to IMCA Nationals in Boone, you don't go to the the Sprint Car Nationals in Nebraska, if you don't go to all these big massive shows and run these shows and compete with these guys like Kyle Larson and Donnie Schatz and people like that, you're not gonna get noticed. Like, the reality is it's just not there. So you need somebody to go out, kind of like what Laurent Ranier had kind of done, in his past career, but kind of go out and find these guys that obviously you can see they have the talent. They just need to be honed in, and you can focus in on teaching them the fine art of of media, the fine art of interviews, the fine art of conducting yourself in a professional manner, and let the rest of it take care of itself. If you got talent, you'll be noticed.
Here's the key, though, Nick. I think where we've gone wrong here is you've got people that look at how much money a kid has first.
Yep.
That's the first thing they look for, okay? If you don't have any money, they don't want to deal with you. Okay, they develop drivers who have huge paychecks who can buy their way to the top. Sorry, to me, that's not how you do this if you're being honest and trying to do it the best way for the sport. Chase Briscoe didn't have any money. Let me tell you what Chase Briscoe did. Chase Briscoe slept on people's couches, and Chase Briscoe swept floors at Cunningham Motorsports for a number of years and did whatever he could just to get an opportunity. When he got it, he went out and won. And so we got to get back to finding the talent and then being able to put the resources around them and develop the talent and teach them how to do this instead of just going and finding these drivers with millions of dollars and then saying, well, I developed this one and that one and the other one. Well, okay, but really all you did was just put them with teams and they went. Now those drivers still have to drive well or they get replaced by other drivers. Okay. So I don't want to make this that just because they have money doesn't mean they're talented. Most of the guys who have money are talented and they're taught well. But we've got to get away from looking at the paycheck first and be able to, Ford did it right with Chase. And I'm hoping that happens more with future drivers in this industry because we're cutting off 75% of the available potential talent base when, we look for somebody that has a couple $1 million to hand to somebody just to place them with somebody or do, whatever. Because that to me is not developing a driver. You're just basically being a broker at that point.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself there. And when you look at it, it's all backwards. If you take a driver like Chase Briscoe, I would rather develop a driver, develop his fan base, get him out there in front of everybody. He's winning. He gets all these fans. Everybody loves him. Then you'll get the sponsors.
Right.
Instead of just looking for someone who's nobody who already has a sponsor and money ready to go. I think Briscoe's the way to do it because if you do it the other way, you're just going to end up with someone who fizzles out either in the Xfinity or Cup Series or when the money dries out.
Well, you're right. And the thing is, Chase has a work ethic. And that's the other thing that we don't always pay attention to with these young guys that we should, because I want a driver who's going to outwork. Anthony Alfredo didn't have a lot of money. His parents were able to help him to a certain point, but that's it. Anthony's worked his tail off to get sponsors and be attractive to sponsors. And RCR wanted him for the marketability, not just for the talent they thought he had. And I think that's a big key. You got if you're a young driver, my advice is get off the couch and get in the game and go work for it. Don't just look around and say, well, I can't, because you can. Chase Briscoe's proof that you can. You just have to work for it. You can have anything you want in life. You're willing to work for it. That's still true today.
Yep, you can become an iRacer like Nick Degroot.
Well, you can do that too. And look at Nick. I mean, Nick is
championship iRacer.
He's an Indy 500 champion.
He's a season champion too. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about IndyCar and F1 when we come back. We've got some of that stuff to talk about too. We'll be back more with the Inside Pass right after this. Welcome back to the Inside Pass. That was the most weirdest.
It's our Halloween
10
ghost
seconds of
kind
yeah.
of
This is like apparently
haunted house.
Apparently, ghosts have
Drowning
invaded
in a
our
pool music.
system right now.
Yeah.
So just a quick update from Texas. It's still raining. All right, back to the show. What can you say?
They've sent the track drying
What
units
can you
out.
possibly say? It's the Air Titans are out drying a track that's still raining on. It's like trying to dry a paper towel while you have it soaked in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to dry any
Boy,
faster.
they're giving it their best shot, though. I gotta give NASCAR that. They're giving
At
it
this
their
point,
best shot.
I don't know why they just don't put numbers on the jet dryers and just let the jet dryers race instead. It'd probably be a whole lot faster.
There you go. I can see Clint Boyer in a jet dryer.
We could always hook them up to the side or to the front of it and just they can pull the jet dryers around while they're racing. Yeah. At least we can identify with sponsorship information and stuff like
Let's
that.
do it.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. If you missed any part of our show today, you can catch it on demand later on this week. Any of the social media platforms, any of your favorite podcasting platforms, just go there. Search Race Chaser Radio, search the Inside Pass. You will find us there. You can catch up on any of the previous shows. Next week on the show, we've got Jesse Little coming from, oh my God, I forgot what team he drives for.
JD Motorsports,
That's what I was trying to
sir.
think of. There was a J in there somewhere, JD Motorsports. My brain
Tell
is
Leighton
completely
Sabile you
fried.
did that, and he's going to whack you.
Yeah, he probably will. Anyway, and our thanks to Nick joining us, who's on the phone, the Strutmasters.com hotline. Last week, Nick, I wished you a happy 14th birthday, and Tom said it was times 2, so that would make you 28, but I still feel like 14 is a better number for you. But anyway, happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you. Actually, it's 27, so you're both wrong.
I'm more right.
I'm eventually right. I'll be right next to you.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually, right. Anyway, happy belated birthday, buddy, and thanks for everything that you do for our show. And speaking of Nick, Nick's going to come and co-host the show with me the week after Thanksgiving because Tom will be on his way back from Batesville that day, so he's going to come co-host the show with me. So
Yes.
Feel free to mark your calendars, not listen to the show that week. I'm sure it's a dumpster fire. Much like it always
It'll be
is.
great.
Anyway,
It'll give me something to listen to on the way back from Mississippi.
that's right. So let's talk about some F1 and IndyCar stuff before we get out of here today. Nick, I'm going to ask you a very simple question, and you can elaborate if you want to or not. Is Lewis Hamilton the greatest the greatest F1 driver of all time?
No.
Okay, now I want to know why, or why you think that.
He is the most successful, absolutely.
Okay.
But I am in the group that believes Senna is the best F1 driver I've ever seen. I don't even say Schumacher. I say Schumacher and Hamilton are both two of the greatest, but I think Senna is number one. He'll probably always be number one in my book. Doesn't matter whatever it does, to be fair. But it's just the guy's, he transcends the level of greatness and becomes, legend, kind of like Dale Earnhardt has on the NASCAR side, and I can't put anyone above him. But what Lewis Hamilton has done, I don't want to take anything away from it because it's incredible to have won 92 races, 6 championships, or almost 6 championships, but he's not done yet. And he takes that Mercedes car, and someone said this week, they said, when you get a Lewis Hamilton, when you take a great driver and a great car and you put them together at the same time. And that's what we have here. We have a great driver with a great car. And if you look at Bottas, he's won races, but he's in the same car as Lewis, and he has not been able to do what Lewis Hamilton has done. Even Nico Rosberg, an incredible driver, was just barely able to eke out a championship against Lewis Hamilton. And we all know what Lewis was able to do at McLaren before this. So not to take anything away from him, he's in the top 1% of Formula One drivers, no question. And I think there's a lot more to come from him.
See, I agree with the last statement. He's in the top 1%. But how do you define great?
Right.
It's like saying I took a bike ride on a good road. Well, what's good? Good to me may be terrible for you. It's very subjective.
Yeah.
So I don't like saying this guy's the greatest ever unless the stats, the accomplishments are so far. It's like saying who's better, Earnhardt or Petty or Johnson. They all have 7 titles. Mm-hmm. So how else do you what other criteria do you use? I think Lewis is certainly the greatest of the modern, the last 20, 30 years. But he's also been on teams that when he was on them were the best teams in the sport.
Yes.
I've never seen Lewis. I want to see, it's like Red Bull, young kid. Of course, my mind's going to go blank now.
Vettel?
Not Vettel, the young kid who drives for Red Bull. Anyway.
Verstappen.
Yes, Max Verstappen, when he was talking to Lewis about let's swap cars, last week. That was a great interview. It was very funny. And so I think the fact that Mercedes has been the best for much of Hamilton's accomplishments here makes it much easier for Lewis to do Lewis. So I think he's in the top 1%. I don't like saying anybody's greater than the next because there's so many variables in there. But certainly he deserves to be on the F1 Mount Rushmore for his accomplishments, no doubt.
Fair enough. We got 2 minutes left before we let you go and before our show ends today. Scott Dixon, speaking of great drivers, Scott Dixon now has 6 championships in the IndyCar Series. How many more championships do you think he can win before he retires?
I heard him say in the broadcast he might be racing for 20 more years. So if that's the case, a lot more. But he's shown no signs of slowing down. He's definitely going to get a 7th, I think, and he may just get more than that because he's not going anywhere.
Now, I believe if he keeps racing, as long as his physical health and whatever allows him to keep racing, I think he could get to 10 before he's done.
Oh yeah,
honestly,
absolutely,
at least 10.
Okay. One more quick question. Can Jimmy Johnson be as good as Tony Stewart or others who have crossed over from Indy to Cup or Cup to Indy?
No, because of the time in his career where he's doing it. I think he could be respectable. I think he could potentially even go up there and surprise a few people. But no, I don't think he's going to be at a Tony level because he's at the other end of his career right now.
Well, Tony went from Indy to NASCAR too. Right. NASCAR to Indy is a much harder transition. I say he'll learn to run well, maybe even win some races, but no. In terms of IndyCar part of his career, probably not.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of y'all on that sentiment. All right, Nick, thank you so much, buddy, for coming on and joining us. We'll see you again in a month or so when you co-host with me after Thanksgiving break. So happy Thanksgiving early to you, since we won't talk to you before then. But keep doing great things, keep doing what you're doing, and have a great rest of the NASCAR and I guess F1 season, since F1's not quite done yet either.
Yeah, thank you guys. Always a pleasure.
All right, no problem.
Thanks,
Nick Degroot, make sure you go to motorsport.com and check out his articles. He's one of the best there is around there. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week. Jesse Little will be here from JD Motorsports, and we will see you guys Thursday for Motorsports Madness. For Tom Baker, I'm Randy Miller, and Nick Degroot. Have a great week. We'll see you guys. Hopefully, Texas race will get started before 2021. We'll see you guys next week on the Inside Pass. Have a great week, everyone.